Morning and welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. My name is Juliet Clark. I'm your host and I just lost the camera there. What the heck? All right. So as you know, we just go as we play as we go here. So I want to remind you guys to go over and like us over on YouTube. Please follow us. We're trying very hard to get up to 1,000 followers. You can find us at Superbrand Publishing, where you will find all of the videos to all of these great podcasts. And then you're listening, so why not go over to Promote, Profit, Publish on iTunes and leave us a review, like us, follow us, just show us some love. We'd really appreciate it. So today's guest is a little bit different. We're going to talk about something that is just rampant out in the world. And our guest is Jen Coken, and she is an executive coach, the executive coach, for badass boss ladies who are trying to smash obstacles, jump over hurdles, and grab snarling dogs by the ears. She's also a comedian, so she's going to have a sense of humor. For 20 years, she's been beating down BS with a velvet sledgehammer, tasseled with humor. Jen is a nationally recognized speaker whose keynotes and trainings are for leaders and their teams who crave actionable lessons from the heart, packed with a powerful punch. Her best-selling book, When I Die, Take My Panties. I laugh every time I read that. An inspiring, raw, and at times funny memoir about coping with her mother's death from ovarian cancer and what it took to push on through. When she's not crafting best-selling books or speaking to audiences around the country, you can find her performing stand-up comedy. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Or eating Nutella. Oh yuck, by the spoonful in the nearest grocery aisle. Really, in the grocery aisle?
You know, maybe not. Look for the woman hunkered down with her face mask on, shoveling spoonfuls of it. I pay for it before I leave.
Oh, okay. All right, just making sure. Because back in high school, remember the old whipped cream and the nitrous?
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't pay for it. We just go suck off the whipped cream. And when you think about that today and what's going on in the world, that's kind of disgusting.
That is disgusting. I didn't do that. I did that at home, but I didn't do that at the grocery store.
No, we would go into the grocery store. Yeah, nobody's ever going to listen again. So welcome. This could be your show after nobody will listen to me anymore. So you work with a really unique thing out there. I won't say thing. Thing is a good word for it. That people don't often think about, called Impostor Syndrome. And I know that's becoming more and more revealed out in the world. Can you tell us about it? What is it?
Yeah. So it was actually a phrase coined back in the 70s. And it really, back then, the thinking was women had it worse off than men, and it was basically meaning a lack of confidence. People who just felt like somebody would find out that they really weren't all they were meant to be. And people thought women had it more than men because testosterone is also called the confidence hormone. Well, women must have it more than men. Come full forward, Dr. Valerie Young did an initial or subsequent analysis, I believe in the 90s or early 2000s, and she's done a TED Talk. And we now find that women and men suffer from it equally, but the interesting part is a lot of people don't think they have it, but they do. So if you're somebody who's a perfectionist, if you're somebody who has to feel like you have to be the expert on a topic before you'll open your mouth, if you have trouble delegating tasks and really kind of keep everything to yourself because you're worried that something will go wrong, those are all signs of certain types of imposters. The perfectionist, superwoman, the natural born genius. There's like 5 different types that she went over. The other 2 escape me, but almost all of us have one of those things. I think often what people don't identify with is being found out that, somebody's going to figure out they really shouldn't have gotten to the level that they did. There's plenty of very successful people who don't have those thoughts, male and female. Those same people also are probably very driven, perfectionists, want to be an expert, hold things close, and guess what? Hello! That's hallmarks of imposter syndrome.
So they don't, that latter group of people just don't have the awareness is what's probably going on. So I have to tell you, yesterday, because we're all stuck in the shelter in place right now, I actually identified imposter syndrome because I binge watched Outer Banks, and one of the stars in it was all about, oh, I can't really commit. I know you're writing this down. I can't really commit because then you'll figure out that I'm not who you think I am. Very dramatic. Imposter syndrome. Yes.
Imposter syndrome.
And then she kissed him. And they ran away from the cops. Really?
Now I have to go check out that show. I've never heard of it. So I'll have to go. That's why I'm like, what is this?
It was brand new, number 4 on Netflix this weekend. It's a teen thing. So I'm a little embarrassed that I'm watching. It's like watching 90210.
That's okay. I used to binge watch 90210 when I was in my 20s and 30s. So that's okay. I feel ya.
I was a Melrose Place girl.
I like that too. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's a classic example of imposter syndrome, right? And we talked about this before. Dr. Young, part of what she says is just notice it and stop thinking that way, which is really hard to just stop thinking some way, because those thoughts that we're having are habitual, meaning and a habit is simply a belief you have that you keep thinking over and over and over again that becomes a habit. So you automatically react to, wait a minute, this has to be perfect. How many people have analysis paralysis? It's got to be perfect before they send something out. Don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. That's also imposter syndrome. So it's really difficult to stop thinking that way because it's a brain pattern that you've created in response to some threat. Maybe when you were 9 years old, you came home from school and had your first C ever and said you showed it to your dad, and your dad said, well, why'd you get the C? And you said, well, that's okay. That's average. What's wrong with average? I want you to write me a 1,500-word essay on average.
Right.
And now everything's got to be perfect. And that's the way you relate to other people. If their work isn't up to snuff and perfect, then you find fault with them. So there's a lot of ways that it can impact people managing other people and the way we lead at organizations and profit, because we all know that people leave managers, not companies. Mm-hmm. So being able to see this is really important. And I think one of the key thing is, okay, if we can't just switch on a dime, what do you do with it? Well, there's a great performance coach for a professional Olympic athlete who failed spectacularly in front of a world of people, Lindsey Jacobellis. And there's this whole story called The Haunting of Lindsey Jacobellis because, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, she did a little trick. She was in the front going for the gold. She did a little trick. It caused her to lose time, and somebody else got the gold and she got the silver. And that's all people are talking to her about. Every interview, she's still competing as an athlete. Every time she goes to compete, it's still like, well, what happened 12 years ago, Lindsey? You're a little big for your britches. Until finally her coach got her, this performance coach who used to coach Wall Street traders. And I think this woman is my spirit animal, where she's like, that's stupid to stop thinking that way. You're not going to get over it. Go into it. Feel those feelings, experience the embarrassment, experience the whole thing, because what you resist will persist. If you bring it toward you and allow yourself to sit in your poopy diaper for a hot minute, you'll be like, oh, shoot, I'm in a poopy diaper. Let me take this off, clean my butt, and put on some clean panties and get on my way.
That is so true. And I love that you related this back to childhood, because when you were giving your talk, you guys, you have to see Jen's talk. She lays out at the beginning some of the scenarios. And so I could literally see the other people on the screen, and I wasn't perfect. I had my little piece I picked out, but I could see people like, that's me. That's me. And one of the things was that I thought was particularly interesting was perfection. It actually got me thinking about, you used to be a perfectionist. But I sort of already knew I got that from people pleasing in my childhood. But then I turned around as an adult, and once I gave it up, now it's like, I just don't care. So is there a medium there? Because I mean, let me just say I do care, but if it's not done, if it's not perfect, too damn bad, get it out there.
I am you. So when I was a little girl at 6 years old, my grandmother taught me how to make my bed to keep my mom happy. My mother trained me to pick up all my toys before my father came home so he wouldn't get angry. I learned how to do my own wash at the age of 8 and 9 to help mommy out. So I was like Hannah's helper, helping out, pleasing, perfectionism, all the way. And it was many years later, going through a personal growth and development seminar, that I went, oh my God, the reason I'm obsessed with making my bed every day is I'm still trying to please my mother, who doesn't live with me anymore, and my grandmother, who's dead. Like, just going to keep trying to please dead people. That really works. And I literally, Juliet, for a month, I'm like, I'm not making my bed. I was like antichrist, right? I was like the antithesis. I'm not making my bed. Until finally I kind of came into this moment of choicefulness. And I think that's what's important. The perfectionism is automatic brain pattern. The antithesis is automatic. It's all reaction. I always say we're either like below the line or above the line. So we need to be able to we don't need to do anything. But if we can recognize when we're below the line in that reaction, we can get to the line itself and take a pregnant pause and go, okay, wait a minute. Do I want to make my bed or not? Why would I want to make my bed? What does that give me, making my bed? For me, especially right now during the pandemic, I have a whole top tips on how to stay sane. And part of it is put on pants every day. But part of that is make your bed, because psychologically it tells your brain, okay, I'm exactly. I have them on too.
But it tells my slippers on.
That's okay. I'm barefoot, But it tells your brain, okay, let me be productive. Let me get ready and go to work. And then I joke and say, we all talked about the freshman 15. You don't want to put on the COVID 15. So wear your pants with a button that's going to press into your belly so you stop eating after, notice how much weight you're putting on, because we're all eating more, snacking more, we're cooking at home, we're indulging. So I've said to my girlfriends, I'm the only one among them. I've lost 4 pounds since this whole thing started. Another friend has lost 10 because she's exercising, and I'm just being very conscientious. I went off on a total tangent. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But here's another thing in that I want to share. When I was growing up, and I'm sure my parents didn't mean badly, but my dad used to always say, you have no common sense. And it was because I didn't do things the way he did. And it was really where I shifted with that, where I was talking about that, was when I was in a boardroom, when I was around 30 years old. And people kept saying things like, why didn't I think of that? Wait a minute, Juliet, that's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? And that realization came along that limiting belief that had caused that perfectionism was because it was his definition of common sense.
Yeah.
Not my definition of common sense. I had a different reality. He could put anything together with his hands, take it apart, put it back together, very creative with his hands. I was very creative with my mind. So I think I don't know, what is your view on this? Is that something that parents quite often put on their kids, those limiting beliefs in ways that they don't even realize?
Yeah, I think it goes, we can't protect our kids from that. We can't protect our kids, and we couldn't be protected from that. We're just being human. And we're just, being parents the way we learned from our parents, or not learned from our parents, because maybe our parents sucked and we want to do it a different way, or we saw some examples of great parents or great teachers. As human beings, we don't just see facts or data. We're always interpreting through a lens, through a filter. We're not seeing the data, we're interpreting it through this lens that we've put on, like a pair of yellow ski goggles. I cycle. And so if I'm cycling in the summer and it's dark out because it's overcast, I have goggles or glasses they're called sliders. So I've got a clear pair, a dark pair, a yellow pair, an orange pair. So I might put on my yellow sliders in lenses into the glasses, and I'm cycling along and we stop and people are talking about why it's going to look like rain. I'm like, what are you talking about? I take off my glasses. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's super overcast. We better put pedal to the metal and get back to the parking lot before it starts pouring. That's how it is for us as human beings. We have viewpoints about things that we don't realize are viewpoints. So we're always interpreting everything that's coming with us before it enters our brain through these filters, through these viewpoints. And so it's really important to separate fact from fiction. That's what you did sitting in that boardroom. Wait a minute, if my dad told me I had no common sense, but you're saying that's a good idea, and let me reevaluate that assumption I made about myself based on something my father said to me. Now, your dad probably didn't have a malicious bone in his body.
No, he didn't.
He was just He was saying a thing. And we don't mean anything by it, but it's the way we as humans interpret the information coming at us that honestly leads to all suffering. Suffering is in our stories, viewpoints, and interpretations of fact. Buddha says suffering is optional. It is so. If you can deal with what's right in front of you, what the facts are, the who, what, where, and when, and separate it from your story, your suffering is going to disappear.
So what do you do? So you've just made me aware that I have this on a certain level, and you do that very well within your talks. So once you've assessed that, how do you, is it something that you can get rid of by yourself? Is it something that some of it can go away, but if it's really deep-seated, it needs help? How do you figure out what to do with it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't have a straightforward answer to that. I think, the first step is recognizing you have a problem in so many words. Like, oh, that's imposter syndrome. Then you want to play the game called catch it, catch it, catch it, catch it. Not just within yourself, but out in the world like you did. Oh, I was watching this show and this woman said this. I was like, oh my God, that's imposter syndrome. Because the more you can catch it, the more you're aware of it. It's very much my first car that I bought, I was really certain that nobody owned a silver Honda. So that's what I bought. Just bear with me for a minute. So I very proudly drove my brand new first ever car that I purchased off the lot and got on the highway and I was like, fudge, silver Honda, silver Honda, silver. All of a sudden, everywhere I saw were silver Hondas, like you can see dead people. So once you recognize it, you want to get really good at seeing it, not just in yourself. It's going to be hardest to see it in yourself. That's why you get a coach, because then that coach can help you kind of drill down, et cetera. But then you start seeing it elsewhere. You don't start, hey, you, that's imposter syndrome. Just like, oh, notice it. Isn't that interesting? Be curious about it and wonder where this comes up. Oh, okay, now I noticed that within me. What triggered it? Because it's always a response to threat. What was the threat that I perceived? When you can get good at noticing it, then you can actually be in a moment of choice. Okay, well, who am I going to be now? If I'm not going to be the perfectionist or the helper, who am I going to be? Well, for me, going back to my bed analogy, I'm going to be somebody who loves integrity in my space, because I know for me, when things are put away, my mind feels less cluttered. Mm-hmm. And I also know that's the start to my day, because I've worked at home for 4 years. So making my bed is really important to me as that moment of starting my day. Same with showering, makeup, pants, all the things, and a specific end to my day. So again, going back, catch it, start seeing it in other people, because you see it there first. Don't point fingers. Then get good at catching it in yourself and start to notice, well, what triggered that? Why did that come up? Be curious. Was that some form of imposter syndrome? Was that why I thought that? Get really curious. It's not bad or wrong that you have it. It just means you're a human being.
Mm-hmm. But it is, I mean, it's starting that recognition. And I love what you say about don't call it out. Like, you're not going to make friends if you walk up and go, Jen, I think you have imposter syndrome. What are you doing about it? Are you seeing someone? Are you? Not a great way to start a conversation.
No, not at all. You won't win friends, or you won't be asked to the next networking event.
There you go.
Like
there you
that,
go.
right?
Oh, it's the crazy girl who thinks.
Oh, good.
So when you see people that have it, I'm always curious about this. You know that thing where, like if you said, Jen, you're so, and you throw something out there that you're so something. And then you think about it later and you think, oh, that's me, like that reflective thing. So when you see imposter syndrome, and I'm totally relating to the Outer Banks here. No, I'm not. When you see that in someone else, is that kind of a cue that maybe they're reflecting something you need to look at?
I mean, it could very well be. You know, they say when you point a finger at someone else, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. That's that old adage. Mm-hmm. For me, and I have found this with the people that I've coached, the things that annoy us the most are the things that we have little space for in ourselves. Mm-hmm. You know, I have a client who there's a particular person she has absolutely no compassion for. But you know what, that at the crux of it is, she has little compassion for making mistakes herself. Because she is that perfectionist. So when she calls it out in other people, but it's from this like reactive, like grr moment. And I said, well, what would be what would it be like if you got curious about what would have other people win? Not win for you, but just win. Like everybody around you is winning. What would that look like as a manager, as a leader at your company? How would that change the culture? How about take the case that anything that bugs you about anybody else, something that bugs you about you? Because I have found, is it the case 100%? Probably not, but the exception proves the rule. We can all find an exception to anything. Yeah, for the most part, if something annoys you or you're like, wait a minute, it's probably a good time to look back at you. Maybe you'll find, nope, that's not me, but good for me for recognizing it. And maybe you'll get a deeper cut to something you've already discovered.
Okay, and maybe you'll stop watching teen dramas on Netflix.
I don't even want to tell you what I was watching last night because I forgot. It was number 2 and it was late. And I worked 10 hours yesterday, and it was these 20-somethings that got on this island, and they were all very, they were ready to have massive sex with everybody. And then they were told no sex allowed, and the winner gets $100,000. That's what I was watching last night. Juliet, do you feel better about yourself about what you were watching?
No, I'm thinking I could win that. No. Where was I? Why wasn't I invited?
I think it's a younger game. These people were 20-something Instagram, 3 million followers on Instagram, and I don't know who they are. They're social media.
I'm sure somebody's going to write comments in this show and say, you guys are old. It's this, and it's very popular. And
it's number 2 on Netflix. It's number 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you got to check it out. You can be hip with the hip crowd.
I will. You know what? I have to get out of watching TV, though, because I binge watched Bosch on Friday. So I need to get a life. So have you ever gotten stuck, and how did you deal with it?
Gotten stuck with a client when I'm coaching them, or gotten stuck personally?
No, personally.
Oh, all the time.
Name names. Name those clients right here.
No. I mean, I yes to both. I've definitely there's been plenty of times when I've been super stuck. And I have the people that I call when I'm stuck. It is, and I have to have those people I call because this is a dangerous neighborhood to go by yourself. Mm-hmm. Whenever I am in it, on it, I'm on my viewpoint. I think my viewpoint is right. I actually have somebody that I've been talking to for 14 years, every day, Monday through Friday, for 15 minutes to create our day together. And we listen to what's going on in each other's lives, and we will say, can I contribute something? Here's what I hear. I think you're stuck in your viewpoint. Here's what I hear, etc. So yeah, I'm human. I get stuck all the time, and I rely on my own coaches and my colleagues. I have a certain set of people that I call when I'm at my worst, because I trust that they won't do anything with what I'm saying. They will listen very intently, and whatever I'm saying, especially if I'm complaining about somebody else that they may or may not know, it won't shift their opinion of that person because they're really just holding the bucket for me to verbally vomit. And then they'll ask me particular questions that will make it, that will be keys for me unlocking where I'm at. And I think about just last week I did this. I know it was Passover. It was the first night of Passover. And I was, I live by myself. I'm usually with friends for Passover. Jewish holidays are very community driven. And I was literally, Juliet, on my knees, overcome with grief, pissed off about the pandemic and being at home and all this stuff. And I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I just wanted to get someone to get all my grief about the whole thing. And so I called somebody in particular. I said, I just need you to hear me. I did. She did. I was done. I went to the store. I bought food. I made myself my own Seder and found a Zoom Seder with 237 other people from a local synagogue. Nice. That I had that night. But the when you get stuck, sometimes you want to lay in it for a while. Sometimes you want to get coaching. Sometimes the whole key for any of it to let it go is to be returned to power, so that you're fully able to contribute your gifts in the world. Because if we're stuck and reactivated, trying to be a perfectionist, etc., we are not 100% fully grounded and strong in our conviction to contribute our gifts to the world.
I agree with that. And I know sometimes when I get stuck, I sit in it and I literally have to say, not making a choice is a choice. Stop it.
Yep.
And that's, I
Yeah.
don't think sometimes when we get stuck that we realize that wavy gravy land we're in, not making a choice, is really a choice.
Yeah. And that's fine. Just don't, as I say, have it over for drinks. Just don't let it sleep in your bed because you'll regret it in the morning.
So is that a don't be a choice slut? I don't know what that is.
No, I'm saying sit in it. Just make sure before you go to bed that you deal with yourself in some way, shape, or form to either say, okay, well, look, I'm going to sit with this overnight, but I'm going to get back to work tomorrow, or I'm going to call somebody. Because whatever you were reacting to, that literally was probably a moment of an upset 5-year-old.
Right.
You go to sleep with it. And what happens from a neuroscientific perspective is that begins to ingrain a new neural pathway in your brain. Wayne Dyer used to talk about this, why it's important to think about gratitude before you go to sleep. One of the things I now chant is I'm healthier and happier in every way, every day. And that was one of his mantras. I'm healthy, because he went through bouts of cancer. I'm healthier and happier every day in every way. And I keep saying that to myself and I keep thinking about that for the planet. And chanting that when I'm going to sleep at night. Let us come out of this kinder and gentler,
Yes, let's. I don't see that happening, but yes, let's try.
I do.
Do you see it happening? I do some places. Other places I don't. But I don't know that there's a solution for that other than voting those people out of office. So who exactly do you work with?
Well, without naming names, I work with execs in the telecom industry, the communications industry, the pharmaceutical industry. I'm trying to think of some of the peeps that I've been working with. That's, what happens is people start referring me.
Right.
Because people either, and I work with some entrepreneurs. Usually I'm out speaking and people will hear me speak and then come up to me and ask me, as I talk about that I coach people and do they want to talk to me one-on-one, but then people refer me. So those seem to be the 3 major industries. And I worked for a long time in the energy industry, so I know what it's like to be a female at the top and the only female at the table with a room full of men, and how not to fall back on the unconscious male tendencies of arrogance and interruption, but actually embody the conscious feminine divinity that we have of really creating team and interdependence and communication and trust and vulnerability and those kinds of things. So I've been down that road. I've totally screwed it up and I'm not screwed up anymore. So I can speak to it and coach those kind of folks.
I have been as well. I broke through that glass ceiling back in the 80s. And let's just say when I hear people talk about it today, I just think, I survived the 80s. I don't want to hear you whine about it right now. So, and I think you're probably around the same age where, it was a lot different than it is now. And these ladies have it so much easier.
They have it so much easier. Absolutely.
We did, yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do people, if somebody want to get in touch with you, how do they work with you? Where can they find you?
So they won't find me speaking anywhere right now because I'm sheltering at home, staying at home. Hashtag stay at home, stay the F at home. So my website is jencoken.com, JENCOKEN.com. I'm doing a lot of virtual speaking gigs. So if people want to hire me to do something on imposter syndrome, I'm doing it on Strengths Finder. I'm doing one tomorrow on the top 10 tips to stay sane. I've done 3 weeks of free webinars on how to harness your anxiety to achieve your goals. So there's a way to get in touch with me there. I also coach clients. So you can kind of look at if you go up to, I think it says either work with me or executive coaching, and you'll see my process. Here's the 6 steps that I bring people through. And I always do a free 30-minute call with anybody. It's a sprint coaching call. We'll really just automatically dig into what's up with you. If you get value from it and you feel like we've been a good fit, we can then talk about whether people want to hire me. So that's how they get in touch with me. They can also send me an email, jen@jencoken.com. I try to make it easy. See me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Jen Coken, Twitter, J Coken, Instagram, Jen Coken. What are the other things? LinkedIn, Jen Coken. YouTube, Jen Coken.
I used to tell people I had Juliet at julietclark.com, not because I have an ego, but because I couldn't remember my own website.
Right? No, I'm with you. That's why I have to have it easy. Well, I shouldn't say this. I was going to say I have an easy way to remember my Zoom room number too.
Yeah, let's not do it right
now. We're not to do that. No Zoom bombing.
No Zoom bombing. Add a password so you don't get those little guys from I don't know what country, but they don't speak good English except cuss words.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciated having you. Before you go, you got to tell us a joke. You're a comedian.
Okay. What did the 0 say to the 8?
No idea.
Hey, nice belt.
Oh, God. All right. Thank you.
I'll be here all week.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Somebody did say to me, they go, yeah, it's been great with being working from home. I haven't been late to any meetings.
Nice.
Yeah, that was their joke. I didn't find that very funny, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for having me.